All right, guys. So this second video is going to be how you're going to take your tables and turn them into graphs. And the reason that we did tables first was so that you had some nice clean points to put on your graph and then connect them using like a ruler or some sort of straight edge. You may not have a ruler, but I can guarantee you have something at home that has a straight side that you can use um, to make your lines straight. So I'm going to start with the equations from the left column or the first column, which in the first video, we talked about how these are the straight up and down lines. So for x equals -3, if I plot those 5 points, what I'm seeing is x is -3 when y is -2, when y is -1, when y is 0, when y is 1, and when y is 2. And if you see, those points all go in a straight line. So I'm just going to connect those. I'm using a protractor for my straight edge. So I'm just going to connect these all the way to the edge of the paper. And so it'll look something like this. And then it also says on the instructions to make sure that you label your lines. I would label them as you go. If you color code them, so if you want to use different colors, you could. I'm going to label mine just outside the graph, but where the edge of the line is. So this one is my x equals -3 line. My next line was x equals 0. So x is 0. I'm looking at these 5 points here. So x is 0 when y is 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So again, I've got them in a straight up and down line, even though the points aren't exactly the same as the first set. So then again, I take my straight edge and I'm going to connect my points. As you guys keep doing this, you might be able to even kind of skip forward in your pattern because you might be getting the idea behind it, which is fine. But if you're struggling, then you have those 5 points to graph the entire time. So like I said, this one is x equals 0. And then my last one was x equals 3. So I already know that one is going to be a straight up and down line here at +3. So I just made 3 random points because I know it's going to be a straight up and down line. I could use my points from my table, but because we're starting to see how this works, I'm just going to do a quick version of it because I understand the pattern. And we've talked a lot about patterns this year. There's a lot of things in math that once you get the pattern, it makes it simpler, but that doesn't mean that it's like a cheating way to do it, because just because you understand the pattern, that is a lot of what math is. Math is based around patterns. So those are my first 3 lines. Okay. You may not be able to see them super well, but then when you start to color in your different areas, you'll see them even better. I'm going to change colors for my y equals lines just so that you can see the difference. So what we had talked about was that for column 2, these are going to be flat lines. So for y equals lines, my equations were y equals -7, 0, and +7. So my 5 points for y equals -7 were at -2, -7, -1, -7, 0, -7, 1, -7, 2, -7. So I just have 5 points along down here. And again, I'm going to take my straight edge and connect. And I'm labeling my lines each time. This is also for you to make sure that you didn't miss any lines, but also for me to make sure that you're graphing them correctly. So please don't forget to do that part. It really does help make things faster on both of our ends. The next one is y equals 0. If you remember from our shortcuts, we've also talked about how y equals 0 is just the equation for the x-axis. So if you use that as your shortcut, then this x-axis is my y equals 0 line. And even though it's kind of hard to see the purple, I know it's there because it's sticking out on the side, and that's y equals 0. And my last one was y equals positive 7. So I'm going to do a straight across line at positive 7. If you use thicker markers, it can be easier. I would recommend doing it in pencil before, unless you are 100% confident on your graphing, just because if you mess up, then you have to figure out how to fix it, and that can sometimes be a pain. So far I have 3 straight across lines at y equals 7, 0, and negative 7. And then 3 up and down lines at negative 3, 0, and positive 3. I'm going to post a second video on how to do columns 3 and 4, but this is how you graph your first 2 columns.